was the perfect marriage. College sweethearts, we built a life together from the ground up. He was a software engineer, logical and steady, while I was a freelance graphic designer, creative and spontaneous. We complemented each other, or so I believed. For 15 years, our life was a comfortable rhythm of shared dreams, inside jokes, and the quiet contentment of knowing you have a partner for life. We had 2 beautiful children, a lovely home in the suburbs, and a dog named Buster. From the outside, we were the picture of domestic bliss. But beneath the surface, cracks were starting to form. The comfortable rhythm began to feel like a monotonous loop. Mark's work became more demanding, and he'd come home mentally exhausted, retreating into his own world of code and tech podcasts. Our conversations, once lively and endless, became short and functional, mostly about bills, school runs, and what to have for dinner. The spark, that vibrant energy that once defined us, had dimmed to a faint flicker. I felt a growing sense of loneliness, a void that our seemingly perfect life couldn't fill. I tried to talk to him about it, suggesting date nights or a weekend getaway, but he'd just smile tiredly and say, "Soon, honey, when this project is over." But one project always bled into the next. That's when I reconnected with Leo. He was an old friend from art school I bumped into at a local gallery opening. Leo was everything Mark wasn't at that moment: attentive, charming, and full of life. He listened, really listened, when I talked about my art and my feelings. Our conversations were intoxicating, a reminder of the passionate, vibrant person I used to be. It started with innocent coffees, just 2 old friends catching up. But soon the coffees turned into lunches, and the lunches turned into something more. With Leo, I felt seen. He admired my work, praised my creativity, and made me feel exciting again. The guilt was a constant, heavy cloak I wore, but the thrill, the feeling of being desired, was a powerful antidote to the emptiness I felt at home. I told myself it was just a temporary escape, a way to cope until things with Mark got better. I was meticulous about covering my tracks, deleting messages, and creating alibis. I convinced myself that Mark, bless his logical, trusting heart, would never suspect a thing. He was too absorbed in his own world to notice the subtle changes in mine. I thought I was protecting him from a truth that would shatter him, and in a twisted way, I believed I was preserving our family by finding my happiness elsewhere. One Tuesday evening, everything changed. Mark came home earlier than usual. I had just gotten back from a long lunch with a client, my heart still racing from my afternoon with Leo. Mark was standing in the middle of our living room, his face unreadable. He wasn't looking at me, but at a small, framed photo on the mantelpiece, a picture of us on our honeymoon, young, carefree, and deeply in love. The silence in the room was deafening, thick with unspoken words. "How was your lunch?" he asked, his voice strangely calm, without turning to look at me. "Productive," I replied, my voice a little too high-pitched. I started bustling around, taking off my coat, trying to fill the space with normal, everyday actions. But the stillness in him was unnerving. He finally turned, and his eyes, usually so warm, were cold and distant. "That's funny," he said slowly, "because your client's office called here about an hour ago to reschedule your meeting for tomorrow." My blood ran cold. The carefully constructed wall of lies I had built began to crumble. I stammered, trying to come up with an explanation, but the words wouldn't form. His gaze was steady, piercing right through me. "I've known something was off for months, Sarah," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "The late work nights, the sudden friend you never mentioned before, the way you guard your phone like it holds state secrets. I didn't want to believe it." He walked over to the coffee table and picked up a small, unassuming black box, no bigger than a deck of cards. He held it up. "I'm a software engineer, remember? I deal with data, patterns, and anomalies. Your patterns changed." He explained that he'd noticed inconsistencies in my stories, little digital breadcrumbs that didn't add up, a car's GPS history that didn't match my alibi, an online receipt for a restaurant I claimed I'd never been to. He hadn't been oblivious. He'd been gathering data, trying to make sense of the anomaly that had become his wife. The box he was holding was a GPS tracker. He'd found it in the glove compartment of my car weeks ago, but it wasn't his. He had run the serial number. It was registered to Leo. The realization hit me like a physical blow. wasn't just my affair partner, he was obsessed. He had been tracking me, ensuring my stories to him were as honest as the ones I was telling my husband. I was trapped in a web of deceit that was far more complex and dangerous than I had ever imagined. In that moment, seeing the profound hurt mixed with a strange kind of vindication in Mark's eyes, the thrill of my secret life evaporated, leaving only a sour, bitter residue of shame. I hadn't been clever. I had been reckless and cruel. Mark hadn't been oblivious. He had been patient, hoping his suspicions were wrong. He hadn't just found out about Leo. He had uncovered a truth about my character that was devastating for both of us. The perfect picture on the mantelpiece was now just a memory of a life I had single-handedly destroyed. There was no going back. The silence that followed was the sound of our world breaking apart, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had no one to blame but myself. This story is a stark reminder of how small choices can lead to devastating consequences. If you find yourself in a relationship that feels empty, communication is the only real path forward, not deception.